Our first one is really a continuation of our introducing attendees session that we started yesterday. But after we go through those, we have Andy Willis with. Are you in first? I think you're in first.
I have no idea.
Ah.
No,
You
it's
did- I
first.
think it was today.
Neil is first, introducing attendees, and at 9.
David is first, which is
Yeah.
not here. Well, he knows. Is that right?
No.
No, it's Herwig, then, no, whoever replaces Herwig, it is Andy, right?
No, well, first, you're first
Right.
till 9.
Right.
And then
I'm
Sandy.
Andy, right? Then Lewis. Yeah, okay, so Andy with How to Make an RPM is the first full session at 9, okay? And Lewis will be on with the Arca OS 5.1 roadmap at 10, and David with recent progress in device drivers at 11. Then we'll break for lunch for 2 hours. And after lunch, we'll come back with Lewis on Arca OS subscriptions. Greg Young with tips and tricks on Arca OS, and then finally Stephen Levine by Skype with the anatomy of an installer. One of the key sort of leftovers from yesterday's session was the voice website. Gordon has been taking care of the, Gordon Snyder has been taking care of the voice website, and he changes it almost every day in some subtle way. So I think it's a kind of interesting process, and so he had some notes on what he's doing to the voice website, and I have been really kind of fascinated with the progress. So I thought it'd make an interesting short presentation, and so as a continuation of the introducing attendees, I'd like to welcome Gordon to explain what he's doing with the voice website. One note: Gordon is mostly deaf, and so any questions, write them down, and I'll bring them to Gordon. So, if you have questions at the end or comments, write them down on your pad and raise your hand, and I'll come get your comment. Give it to Gordon. Thank you.
Neil,
Yeah.
before we move on, an announcement that I'm going to make, hopefully catching people. If tomorrow, Sunday, you have to leave before lunch, please let me know as soon as you can, because what I will try to do, I was told it was possible, is to arrange for box lunches for those people who have to leave earlier. So if you have to leave before the 12 noon lunch because of flights or whatever, let me know ahead of when you can today, and I will talk to the catering people, and hopefully we can accommodate that and get you a box lunch that you can take with you when you go.
All right.
And just for everyone's, I was looking at the menus for the lunches, and the one for tomorrow is called It's a Wrap. I figured it was appropriate since it was the end of the sessions, and it provides a wrap sandwich this time.
All right. Thank you, John. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Gordon Snyder, and I'm the volunteer working on the voice website. I've been asked to give a 5-minute talk on what has been happening with it. For a while, there was no one looking after the voice website on a regular basis. I knew nothing about website authoring, but wanted to learn. I said I would do it if it was okay, that I didn't know anything and could learn on the job. That was accepted. First step was to go to the bookstore and buy a couple of books on HTML. I started reading and looking to see what the current condition of the site was. After a short while looking, I went back to the bookstore and bought a couple of more books on XHTML and kept looking at the site. Soon after that, I went back to the bookstore for more books on cascading style sheets. And I can see that before too long, I'm going to need books on PHP and possibly JavaScript. The main rules that I followed were that I would do no damage and the site must always be available. Therefore, I could not work directly on the active website. I built a complete parallel directory and file structure on my own computer and do all the work there. I also decided to do by hand coding instead of using a development program. I hope this would help me understand HTML and cascading style sheets better. I checked several text editors and settled on THE, the Hessling editor, with EPM as a fallback. I set up access to the website through NetDrive, which makes the whole website as just another drive letter, so I don't have to learn FTP commands. I wrote a small set of Rex commands to move files back and forth in a consistent manner. The first action I took on the website was cleaning out the old logos for past Warpstocks. Then I learned how to add new announcements to the index page. The links pages has been updated to include all links I could find for current OS2 programs and OS2 related sites. I tried to contact all the groups on the groups page and updated those. I created 3 new sidebars, one using past Warpstock logos back to 2003, one using Warpstock Europe logos, and another using the current year's logos, and turned the sidebars into server-side includes. Many pages on the site were not written to full XHTML standard. I want to bring all those pages up to XHTML standard. The main drop-down menus, tabs, take up only one line on the web page, but a full screen of XHTML code and a section of CSS style rules. Yet the identical menu code appeared on 17 different pages. I changed that so the menu code is in one place and called it a server-side include. The page footers are also changed to server-side includes. The downside of SSIs is that I have lost the ability to use the validator website to test page correctness on the included pages. Have to see if I can do something about that. Now, looking into the newsletter articles, which seem to be a diamond mine of information, especially since Arca OS uses OS2 4.5 as its base, this makes many articles in the magazine section relevant again. I still have to make sure that the email addresses on the contacts page for contacting board members are working. I'm thinking that will involve buying more books. As I learned something of XHTML and CSS, I realized that the formatting, colors, and fonts codes were a mix of HTML tags and CSS rules. I am now working on converting the page formatting to pure CSS. Up next is a testing of pages with more than 2 browsers. I only have Firefox on ECS and Safari on Apple currently available. Also ahead is setting up a web server of my own to do testing of pages before putting them into use. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Gordon at this point?
I do have a suggestion for him, but you want me to write it down?
Probably be a best thing. Oh, here we go.
Yes, I can use the validator code, but I found that the way I was using it, it would not pull in includes. It would not pull server-side includes in before the page was submitted to the validator. So I don't test the whole page as it's seen on the website. And the included pages do not include the headings at the top, where I even forget the name of the pages, but at the top there's some link lines that tell the validator what level of HTML you're using, and if that's not there, the validator doesn't know what standard to test against. So I have to figure out some way to completely assemble the page before I send it to the validator.
It's a bit of a lengthy question, but basically it boils down to it that you don't need to have all of the different web browsers on your machine handy. There are websites where you can put a URL in, and then you see a large screen appear, and then you start to see screenshots appearing of how the website that you entered looks in about 40 different web browsers. Opera, Internet Explorer, Chrome, Linux browsers, you name it.
I've seen that website, and if you could forward the URL
There are
for it.
several of them.
Okay, forward one or more URLs to me or to Gordon, please.
Firefox on their startup thing has been talking about them providing that service.
Yeah, that's why I knew it was there.
Well, Gordon knows how to contact me, I guess.
Well, yeah. Yeah, it's fun to look at the website as it progresses. It's often the changes are very subtle. I'm more interested enough to go view page source. Oh, he's done it again.
Question, is it possible, okay, he was mentioning putting the HTML level in. Is it not possible to put it in at the top of the main page, or does it have to actually be included in every?
Yeah, that's what he's trying to say, is that it ignores what's on the main page. So.
No, you could stick it in and not use the header, but then you nullified the advantage of using server-side includes. So that's like a template that gets pulled in by the server and placed in the page where you indicate.
Okay,
But the thing that he's using doesn't understand how to do that, so it misses it.
Jeffrey, you had some question that we might pursue in this session.
Yes, thank you. You have my email address.
That was the question, just gave it to you.
Say again?
I just wrote that and gave it to you, whether he could validate your question.
Oh, yeah. No, I meant when we were talking yesterday in the session, you had a question regarding your laptop. Actually, I guess it was you already resolved.
I know.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just mentioned, well, ask, Robert, he knows what it was, maybe he should mention. I did a fresh install of Arca OS
Yeah.
on the virtual machine, and it failed for one reason that I didn't read the non-existent manual, but the second reason was the login, some code which has been reported, that you just mentioned about, we discovered on my machine yesterday, that you fixed furiously at the keyboard.
Oh, it was very simple, but I don't know how it's related to the voice website.
No, it's going by the
sorry.
OS website. This was another attendee issue that came up yesterday morning before you arrived.
Oh, it was very simple. He couldn't load, on his last install that I looked at, he couldn't load XWLAN, and that resulted in the X Center crashing. And he couldn't get the XWLAN to set up his Wi-Fi card.
Was that me?
I think that, yeah.
I think you
Well, I think that's what you were referring
Yes,
to.
right, the X-Center crashed when I would load the,
Oh.
Me
What-
too,
if-
me too.
both of us had the same.
If you load either Ecom Station or Arca OS, it loads X Workplace, which is an extension for the Workplace shell. And what Jeffrey had on his laptop was that the X Center at the bottom with the start button and the CPU graph, it never appeared. And if you looked in the var log directory where there's an XWP trap log, you saw that it tried to load the XWLAN DLL, but that DLL has a bug in it, and the result is when that plugin DLL crashes, the whole X center doesn't come up, and then you end up with a non-existing bar at the bottom of the screen. I've been talking to Rich Walsh. We've been providing some funding via voice for X Workplace development, and it is actually one of his grievances that the X Workplace code, if you put in a plugin DLL such as the XWLAN, so that you get that little antenna in the right hand corner next to the clock, the trouble is it's now basically David will probably, or Alex, say that it's a wrong translation, but it's a single process basically. If any of the DLLs blow up, instead of that DLL crashes, the entire X center crashes, and that's what you're seeing. I guess that's maybe not a correct technical translation, but yeah.
Okay, what they're trying, what I think someone mentioned is if they can, somebody has a copy of the standalone xwlan.exa.
It's already in there. It's just buried about 7 directory levels deep. But if you want, I can show you where it is, and then you. One of the things I'm going to discuss with Rich Walsh is that he's working on a project, if the way I understand it, where a X Center plugin can load standalone. It will still be part of the X Center, but it will run in its private memory space, meaning that when that process blows up, it doesn't take your entire X Center with it. Because the result that Jeffrey has is that every time that the system starts up, it loads the X Center, then the XWLAN falls over and you never get to see your X Center.
Is there a way to turn off those extensions?
Yes, it's very cruel, but very simple. On ECS, you go to the ECS system directory, and about then a couple of more directories further down, you have got a plugin directory. And in there are the DLLs that are available to the X Center to load. The same directory exists on Arca OS in the sys apps directory.
Sys X Workplace plugins X Center.
And in there, you can then, if needed, use the unlock command to unlock the DLL. Then you rename it, and when you then restart the system, the crash is gone.
And is there a config file or something that lists those DLLs, or how does that work? How does the connection get made?
No, well, the connection is stored in the OS2 INI file, but it's not very easy to see that.
Right. Okay.
If your X Center doesn't come up, you can go to the var log directory on your hard drive. Some OS2 software has its own exception handler, meaning that OS2 has its own exception handler. So if, for example, a program crashes, you get an entry in popuplog.os2.
Right.
However, if X Workplace crashes in this case, it has an exception called xwptrack.log, which is in the var log directory. And in there you can see in Jeffrey Race's system, you see a whole endless listing where you see xwplan.dll crashing. So that's what you sometimes also, for generic tip, there is not a central crash log for OS2. In some cases, you need to look further for a log file. But in both ECS and Arca OS, most of those logs are written to the var log directory. Not only the installer files are put there, for example, the log file that Panorama creates at startup with some diagnostic info is also put there. So,
What's it called? Like FAR log?
VAR/log.
VAR log.
Well, it was a directory structure that was designed at the time by the development team for Ecom Station, and it seems that it found its way into ECS, into Arca OS.
Yeah.
But I think Nicky Morrow who came up, Alex, who came up with that directory structure? Nicky Morrow, or I forgot?
It was a group effort.
A group effort.
Yeah. No, there's one leader for it. I can't remember his name though.
Nicky Moore published it.
Yeah.
But he was simply one of a group of people who
Yeah.
put their heads together, including
What's
several
the
of us in
name
the
of
room.
the WAN file? What's the name of the LAN file? XW,
You go to far log.
okay. In my
Yeah.
case,
So I
the network
suggest,
doesn't
that's
start
nice.
up, so I do
This is
have,
actually quite an important problem for people like me, because you can't use
but
the
if I
Wi-Fi.
tried to get it
Could this be
going.
documented? Because I'm gonna test some other machines, and he types faster than I could make notes yesterday, so
Right.
I couldn't record what he did.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna have to send
Probably
an
someone
emergency
dark enough
email
to do that, huh?
Rod to say, please help me fix my machine at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Can we document this?
Probably someone in Arkanoa should do that, huh?
Do we know anybody there?
No. They're too busy.
There's a lot of law.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's one for XW workplace.
Think so? I think so. I'm mystified by that directory. There's too much in it.
And why didn't everybody have this problem? Why did it hit my machine?
It's very rare.
It's rare.
Very rare.
And what's rare about installing OS on a ThinkPad?
Is it
Oh.
T400?
No.
No, no.
T1.
You have a supported Wi-Fi card. That's rare.
Oh.
Hopefully it won't be in the future.
I'll do the same as I
Yeah, we should have a, half-page document what the fix is, and just send it around or put it up on.
But wouldn't that be nice? I think
And that'd be perfect.
I think it'd be nice.
There was definitely something.
It's a 3-line fix. Unlock XW LAN DLL, rename it, and use the standalone executable and put that as a shadow on the desktop.
Yeah, I've never, I guess I used that once, on my T23, but I haven't, that was a long time ago. Probably,
What is the name
probably
of the
14 years ago.
tool?
WLANstat.
The name of the exe file that you're running.
WLANstat.exe.
Sorry?
WLANstat.exe.
Okay.
I use it.
Okay. That's a goodie.
That'll be wild.
I'll write down with that.
It does.
Does it come in ArcOS? Because
If the Wi-Fi support is installed, then the executable is copied. It isn't necessarily given a desktop object.
No.
okay.
If you do not install X Workplace, it's given a desktop object.
Oh.
If you don't install if you do install X Workplace, then the files are installed, but a desktop object for that is not created because you've got the widget.
Yeah.
But who wants to run an OS2 system without X Workplace? That's who wants to run an OS2 installation without X Workplace these days?
I could tell you,
Alex does.
probably majority of users actually.
Sorry?
Probably a
don't use
majority
Excel.
of users.
Oh,
We're
that's
in the
nice.
minority here.
Good.
All right. Actually, are we at 9 yet? I don't.
Just about.
Just
Mr.
about.
Dodd, did you, we're gonna have, Roy talk about his printing thing, or?
I think we're gonna put that off till tomorrow because
Okay.
save something for later, and because printing is, his comments are short, but the resulting discussion may not be.
So I missed the announcement of the schedule tomorrow. Repeat that, because I'm trying to.
What's that?
I didn't announce the schedule for tomorrow. That's
I was trying another thing.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Talk about Sunday.
You're gonna have this.
We're going to lead off with
It's a desktop
Lewis
object.
on how to access update. Well, first we'll have a session just like this one with the remaining user attendee issues, which will be mostly around printing.
And what time? Could you just say what time?
That'll be at 8:30, and then at 9 we'll have Lewis with how to access updates. Or excuse me, we'll have
If you now click on it, you will get
the
it.
first session will be Lewis actually how to access updates. I guess maybe we should do printing now. Let's do printing now. Okay, Lewis will do how to access updates at 8:30.
That's what you should-
Adrian Geschwind of NetLabs will do a retrospective at 9 over Skype.
It's-
Roderick
it's
will
ArcOS.
have his session.
This is a workaround.
So at 10?
at 10, which will be a sort of surprise installation and demo. And John Edwards will wrap up at 11.
All I can do is.
So the principal will over down to the left, is that right?
No, that'll be when John starts his wrap up. So it'll be over at noon. Lunch will start at noon.
Okay. Thanks.
Actually, it'll probably be, a wrap up won't take an hour.
Half hour?
Yeah, so we may do any remaining issues from attendees after, well, in that session also.